welcome back, everyone. So let's talk about Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And Quentin Tarantino is one of those directors that I've seen every one of his movies. I haven't seen all of them a lot, except for Kill Bill 1 and 2 and Pulp Fiction, and Jackie Brown. I do love Tarantino as a director, I really do. In all his movies, I love every single one that he's done so far. Even Death Proof, which is one where people are like, on, but I really love that one too. Now, going into this one in particular, with watching the trailers, I was really wondering if this would be done in a tasteful way because they've got Sharon Tate and Charles Manson in this movie, and it is in 1969. So, you would think that maybe, just maybe, he might do something that's distasteful. Which, because he's done other things, but he's done it with, like, bad guys. Like, he's done it with Nazis, if that makes sense. Where, like, he does over-the-top, silly violence in a lot of his movies, and I was hoping that there wouldn't be anything like that with Sharon Tate in this movie, and I guess this isn't really a spoiler, but there isn't. This isn't about that. This isn't about what happens at the end of Sharon Tate's life. So that's really good. I really was thankful for that because I didn't want to have a disrespectful thing. And honestly, I shouldn't have even thought about that because Tarantino is a director that I feel like wouldn't do that. So yeah, I just was going into this kind of wondering, is this going to be in a way where it's going to be tasteful to a lot of people? Because, to be fair, he has done stuff that is raunchy in a way where, like, you don't expect him to do, if that makes sense. I'm kind of rambling now, but anyways, let's talk about the biggest thing about this movie that I loved is that the performances in this were incredible. Leonardo DiCaprio, watching this, he has one of my favorite performances as Rick Dalton, this actor who is kind of washed out and is doing a lot of stuff where he wants to still be a big actor, but he's kind of just succumbing to stuff like going to do Italian movies where he thinks that that's kind of downgraded for him, and I like the fact that it's this like middle-aged man's life and he's really debating on he really doesn't like where he's going in life. And with his scenes, they're really fascinating. The scene between him and this little girl is one of my favorite scenes of the year of any movie, where he's talking to this little girl who's an actress as well, and this actress is phenomenal. This little girl blew me away as well, but both of their talks back together is just one of the most interesting and most perfected like acting scenes that I've seen this year in any movie. It blows me away. And then Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth, who is this absolute badass character who had a shaky past on something that I won't spoil in this review, but he had a shaky past where he is this character who is this badass character who does whatever he wants. Nobody could tell him what to do. And I think whenever you get to the end of the movie, it works perfectly with him. And I want to say the scenes with him, but they are truly so awesome because Brad Pitt has such a fantastic performance as well, and his character is such a badass that I don't want to spoil his scenes, because when you watch these scenes, you're just going to sit there with your mouth open like, oh my god, it's insane like what he does in this movie. And I love that. And then the other big actor out of the three is Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. This, again, like the other two performances from Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, she is incredible in this movie. And I really honestly don't know much about Sharon Tate. The only thing I know is that she was murdered by Charles Manson's family followers. And I have not seen any movies with her in it, and I want to now, because there is a scene that, again, is just one of my favorite scenes of the year, where Sharon Tate, walks past the theater and sees the movie Wrecking Crew, and I think it stars Dean Martin, but she walks past that movie, and she's in the movie, and she goes up to the marquee and says, like, I'm in that movie, I'm Sharon Tate. And, like, the way that Margot Robbie plays this performance is so genuine. And I don't know much about Sharon Tate, but if she was like this in real life, this seems pretty cool because Margot Robbie just gives off this such a real performance, and how nice and how wonderful of a person this Sharon Tate seemed like she was. And it's a beautiful moment where, again, one of my favorite scenes of the year as well from any movie, where she goes into the theater and just watches the movie, which is the actual movie with the real Sharon Tate on screen, and they look just alike, Margot Robbie and the real Sharon Tate, one when watching the movie Wrecking Crew. And that scene of her just watching the movie, just smiling, just laughing, just watching her performance is so, like, her character Sharon Tate watching her performance in the Wrecking Crew movie is so genuine, and it's so great to watch. And again, it's just a fantastic scene. I really love that moment in the movie because Margot Robbie is a really fantastic actress, and I haven't seen her in things that are all considered great movies. I mean, I know she's in Wolf of Wall Street, but like I'm talking about like stuff like Suicide Squad, Legend of Tarzan, which was a really crappy movie that I saw. But I haven't seen her in a lot of movies, and she in this movie is so incredible, and I loved her in this movie just like the other two. Like all three of these actors are perfect in this movie, and this movie has so many perfect things about it. And it's just so genuine with her watching that movie of herself. Like, it's so good. Um, and this movie, like most Tarantino movies, it has so many actors, and I'm not going to name them all, but I will name a lot of them. Like, they had a cameo appearance from Dakota Fanning, Timothy Olyphant, Al Pacino, Kurt Russell, Luke Perry in his last role, and of course, like Michael Madsen and Zoe Bell, which Zoe Bell has a great scene. She is hilarious, and I love Zoe Bell. I love that she's back in this movie. Like, she's a stunt coordinator in a lot of Tarantino's movies, and she was a character in Death Proof. And I know she was in other ones, but Death Proof is the one that pops up in my head that she's been in more. Um, but also you've got like Bruce Dern and Rebecca Gayheart and Danielle Harris. And Danielle Harris, funny enough, she's in this movie, but she's not recognizable. Like, I heard her voice and I'm like, that sounds like Danielle Harris. But they did a thing where she's a bigger person in the movie, like body wise. Like, she looks like a totally different person, and the only thing that I could tell was her voice, because her face was also sunburnt, and like in a way where like it surprised me. And I looked at the end after the movie and I'm like, that was Danielle Harris. That's hilarious. Because it just didn't recognize her, because they did such a good job of hiding that this was just her, because this isn't what she looks like in real life. And I like how they did that with the makeup. That's really cool. But there are so many actors in this movie, and they're all great. And the thing I love about this movie is that it just lets these characters breathe. It lets you just see scenes of, like, you see scenes of Rick Dalton filming a movie or a show, or you just watch clips of him from his prime, like watching movies or watching shows that like he was in, and just scenes with Cliff Booth like being a badass, and then scenes of Sharon Tate just going around and being genuine and just a nice person. And I loved how all three of these characters, he let them breathe. And this is a different Tarantino movie in which these characters, like, this movie does have a final act that is a big final act. I will say that without spoiling it, but the rest of the movie is just these characters living their lives, and I love when a movie can do that, because I just cared so much about them. I thought they were so genuine and so cool. And Sharon Tate's the only real person, because Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth are not real. And honestly, I had to look that up because I don't know much about this time period. I'd want to know more now, because this movie just blew me away with that fact of how beautiful it looked and felt in 1969, and also just wanting to know more about this time period. But I just love how he lets these characters breathe, and there is a final act that is fantastic. I love the final act. It'll blow you away. It's different than what you'd expect, and that's what I'd say. This is a different Tarantino movie. It's one that you don't look at. You're not going to look at it the same way, because it does have all the Tarantino stuff, but it is a more grounded and more mature movie for the most part. But man, that final act was so great, but the character buildup was so fantastic as well. in the final moments of the movie where, like, I won't say what happens, but in the final moments I was just like bittersweet, like very bittersweet, because this movie just did an incredible job with these characters, an incredible world that they established with all these characters, and now it's fantasy-ish because, again, two characters aren't real, and Sharon Tate is the only real person. And I mean, of course, you have Charles Manson in one scene, and you have these characters that are real, but for me, it's a lot of fantasy characters. They're not real, most of them, so they have real characters mixed with fantasy. So I really, really enjoyed that as well. I thought that that worked on a level that just made this really, really interesting because I really love these characters. I really love the story. Man, I loved everything about it. This one just blew me away. Um, Man, it was such a great movie, and I loved everything about it. That I thought that this is one of my absolute favorite movies of the year. It truly is. This, along with Midsummer and Toy Story 4, just three movies that blew me away, and I just love this movie. I thought it was fantastic, and it might be one of my favorite Tarantino's. But I might have to think about that because I haven't rewatched the other ones in a while. So we'll have to see. But as of now, this is a fantastic ninth film from Tarantino, and I really, really loved everything about it. I thought everything about it was fantastic. So that is my thoughts on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And if you like this video, check my links in the description down below. And if you like this movie, tell me down below what you think about it. Did you like it? Did you not like it? I want to have conversations with you guys, and you guys have a great day.